Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome everyone in today's class for the third intermediate grade. Our textbook is Super Goal 6 and today we will cover expansion units from 4 to 6 and the lesson is language review. This lesson will be presented by me, teacher Mazin Harbi, and the sign language by Mr. Fawaz Al-Agil. So let's begin. Our objectives in today's lesson, we hope that at the end of this lesson you will be able to review using gerunds after certain verbs and review the present perfect with already and yet and review conditional sentences about future possibility and future facts. And the last goal is to review will versus might in conditional sentences about the future. So in our lesson today, we will have more than 5 exercises, and all of these exercises cover the form and the function and also the grammar that we have learned from Unit 4 until Unit 6. So let's open your books on page 68. Would you please open your books on page 68. Our first exercise of today, which is exercise A, I would like you to complete the sentences about yourself using a verb in the gerund form. So, for example, we have learned that there are certain verbs, and when we use these certain verbs after, we can use also after these verbs a gerund, which is a verb plus ing. So, for example, Adil, as we can see here in this example, Adil enjoys. Adil enjoys, and enjoy is one of these verbs that we can use with it a gerund. So we not only gerund, but we can also use after it a pronoun. Adil enjoys it, or we can use a gerund. Adil enjoys swimming, or also we can use a noun. Adil enjoys the pool. So here I'm showing you an example that there are more than one possibility of using either a pronoun or a noun after enjoys, and it's not limited only for gerund. But as for gerund, it has only certain verbs that we can use it after it. So enjoys is one of these verbs that we can use after a gerund. So now let's try to answer this question. Let's complete the sentences about yourself using a verb in the gerund form. And so here the answers, I'm sure that it will vary. I'm going to show you only an example so you can write your own answer as long as you are following the same form that I'm writing here. So number 1, I can't stand. I can't stand. And we have learned that can't stand is one of these verbs that we can use after it a gerund. So here I'm talking about myself. I can say, I can't stand doing the laundry. I can't stand doing the laundry. What about you? What are the things that you can't stand? You can tell me, or you can express your opinion about the things that you cannot stand as long as you are using the gerund form after this verb. So you can say, for example, I can't stand waiting in line. I can't stand listening to my friend. I can't stand waking up late. I can't stand going to school late. So there are many things that you can pick from and you can say about the things that you can't stand. Let's move on to number 2. I really enjoy. I really enjoy. And enjoy here as well is one of these verbs that we can use after a gerund, as we have learned. So this is my own answer. This is only an example. I really enjoy playing video games. What about you? What are the things that you enjoy doing? So you can write the same answer as I have written here, or you can come up with your own example. You can say, for example, I really enjoy traveling. I really enjoy going for shopping. I really enjoy listening to different books. So you can tell me and write down examples of the things that you personally enjoy. Number 3, I gave up. I gave up drinking coffee. I gave up drinking coffee. And here, what do you mean by gave up is the things that you let alone, the things that you not use anymore. So for myself, I gave up drinking coffee. I like to drink other drinks like orange juice or tea or maybe water. So what about you? What are the things that you gave up? What are the things that you don't do anymore? So you can come up with other examples of these. And number 4, I really miss. I really miss seeing my family every day. I really miss seeing my family every day. So here the verb miss is one of these verbs that we can use after it a gerund, as we can see here in seeing. So I really miss seeing my family every day. So what about you? What are the things that you miss? And number 5, I avoid eating junk food. I avoid eating junk food. So this is about myself. What about you? What are the things that you avoid? So as I said in the beginning, here we have different, the answers of this question will vary from one student to another. So just make sure that you are following the same form. And what form do we mean here? The form which is gerund, which is using a noun that is added to it an ing. So this is what they mean by gerund. And also make sure that you are memorizing and you fully aware of these verbs. I can't stand, enjoy, gave up, miss, avoid, because these are the verbs that we can use with them a gerund. Let's move on to the second exercise. In the second exercise, I would like you to write 2 sentences about the things that you have already done and haven't done yet this year. So in this question, we're going to practice the present perfect using already and using yet. So just tell me and write down only 2 sentences. 2 about the things that you have already done and 2 about things that you haven't done this year. So this is only a short or a quick example. For myself, I have already eaten my lunch today. I have already eaten my lunch today. But I haven't eaten my snack yet. I haven't eaten my snack yet. So this is only a short example about the sentences that I would like you to write, and I want those sentences to be similar to this. 2 sentences about the things that you have already done, and 2 sentences about the things that you haven't done yet. So let's move on to the exercise, and here I'm going to write down 2 examples. I'm going to write down 2 examples of the things that I have already done, and also 2 things that I haven't done yet. So the first one, which is comes under the things that I have already done, is that I have or I've already taken a vacation this year. I have already taken a vacation this year. And again, here I'm talking about myself. You can you can write the same answer, or you can come up with a similar answer about the things that you already done this year. Number 2, I have already read 2 good books this year. I have already read 2 good books this year. So this is about myself. So these are the 2 things that I have already done this year, which is that I have already taken a vacation, and also I have already read 2 books this year. So now let's move on to the things that I haven't done yet. Number 3, I haven't gone swimming yet this year. I haven't gone swimming yet this year. And the other thing that I haven't done yet, which is I haven't been to the beach yet this year. I haven't been to the beach yet this year. So these also are the two things that I haven't done yet. So again, the answer, of course, will vary from one student to another. You can write think of similar answers like this. In the first two, just write the things that you have already done this year, and in the other two, just think of the things that you haven't done this year. So this is in regarding of exercise B. Now, let us move on to exercise C. In exercise C says, Adnan wants to be a successful doctor. Write 5 things he will have to do to achieve that. Start the sentence with the if. So here we're going to practice the rule of conditional sentences using if. So here we have a scenario which is Adnan who wants to be a successful doctor. And what we need to do in this case is that we're going to write 5 sentences about the things that he will have to do in order for him to be a successful doctor. So in order for him to achieve that condition. So for example, we are going to write sentences similar to this. If Adnan wants to be a doctor, he will have to go to the medical school. This is a condition. If you want, and our goal is for him to be a successful doctor. So in order to achieve that goal, what he needs to do, there are conditions. The first one is, if he wants to be a doctor, he will have to go to medical school. Also another sentence, if he wants to get into that medical school, he will need to get good grades. He will need to get good grades in his current education. So these are the 2 examples about the sentences that we will need to write similar to them. So let's move on by thinking of the first sentence. So, and this is only an example. As I said, you can come up with your own sentences as long as you are following the same form as I'm going to show you here. So if he is accepted to that medical school, he will have to read more every day about medical studies. So this is a condition. And just to remind you, look how can we write a conditional sentence. We start with a clause that starts with if, and then after that clause ends, after that condition ends, we write a symbol comma, and then we write the result of that condition. So if he is accepted, he will have to read more every day about medical studies. Also, the second sentence, if he is succeeded, he will realize it is not an ordinary job and need to work hard. If he is succeeded, he will realize that it is not an ordinary job and he need to work hard. So these are the condition and the second example. And the third one, if he is a good doctor, or if he became a good doctor, he will be famous and successful. So this is also another condition, that if he is a good doctor, he will be famous and successful. And the fourth one, if he wants to own a clinic, he will have to work hard as a doctor. So if he wants to own or to have his own clinic, he will have to work hard as a doctor. And the final one, if he is married, he will manage his time between his work and his family. If he is married, he will manage his time between home and work. So these are only an example, only a few examples about the things that Adnan should do if he, when he became a doctor, or if he wants to be a good one. So, moving on to exercise D. In exercise D, I would like you to complete the sentences about yourself using will or might. So, here again, as we have learned before, we're going to use the rule with will and might. So, let me ask you the first thing, which is, which sentence do you think that is true about me? So, I'm going to tell you two sentences about myself and tell me which one do you think that they are true about me? Number one, if someone cuts in front of me in line, I will say something. If someone cuts in front of me in line, I will say something. Do you think this is true about me or about a person that you might know? Or number two, if someone cuts in front of me in line, I might get annoyed, but I will not or I won't say anything. So not only about me, think of any, maybe a family member or a friend that you know very well, and ask yourself these two, or this question, these two sentences, which one of them do you think that is mostly true about him? Is it the first one or the second one? So I'm showing you this because I would like you to write similar sentences to this, to write or to complete sentences about yourself. So here we're thinking about someone else. Now it is your turn to write about yourself. So let's start with number one. If I don't do my course, so we can continue this, and this is an example of myself. I will be in trouble with my parents. If I don't do the housework, if I don't help them, I will be in trouble with my parents. Number two, if I study hard this year, and this is a condition, if I study hard this year, I will get good grades. If I study hard this year, I will get good grades. Number three, if another person is rude to me, I might just ignore the person. If another person is rude to me, I might just ignore that person. So some of you may use might here in this case, or may use will, so as long as you are following the same form. And number four, if my parents give me some money, I will buy a new laptop. If my parents give me some money, I will buy a new laptop. And number five, finally, if someone gets in front of the line, I might say something to that person. If someone gets in front of me or in front of the line, I might say something to that person. So here I completed these sentences about myself. Now it is your turn to complete it about yourself. What would you do in these different situations? If in case, for example, if you don't do your housework, if you study hard, and if another person is rude to you, if your parents gave you money, and if someone cut in front of the line, what would you do? Would you do the same thing as I did, or you have another answer? Just remember, our goal here is that you are, or you should follow the same form as I did in this question. Now, exercise E, here I would like you to complete the sentences using a gerund or an infinitive. And if you remember that we have already talked about that we have some verbs that after these verbs we use gerund, and some verbs that we can use after it an infinitive. So let's start with the first one. Number one, I hope a good grade on my English test. I hope a good grade on my English test. And here what we need to focus on is the verb hope, and trying to think what kind of verb is that. Is it the kind of verb that we can use after it an infinitive or gerund? And after this we look for a meaning. What is the meaning of, or what is the suitable verb that we can use here in order to complete the sentence? So here in our case, the verb will be to get. I hope to get a good grade on my English test. So the same strategy, we're going to use it with the other sentences. Let's start with number 2. The thief avoided looking the police officer straight in the eye. The thief avoided looking at the police officer in the eye. And avoid, as we have learned in just 2 exercises before, that is one of these verbs that we can use after a gerund. Number 3, the students expect to finish their assignments before Friday. The students expect to finish their assignments before Friday, and expect also one of these verbs that we can use after it, an infinitive. Number 4, I didn't have any money, so my friend offered to pay for my meal. My friend offered to pay for my meal. Number 5, it is important to get all necessary vaccination before you travel. It is important to get all your necessary vaccinations before you travel. So these are the answers of exercise E. Now let's continue. Our neighborhood, number 6, our neighbors promised to water our plants when we are away. Our neighbors promised to water our plants when we are away. And promise is one of these verbs that we use after it, an infinitive. Number 7, I hate washing the pots and pans after I finish cooking. I hate washing the pots and pans after I finish cooking. So love and hate are also one of these verbs that we can, or hate are one of these verbs that we can use after it, a gerund. Number 8, my co-workers refuse to work on weekends. My co-workers refused to work on weekend. And number 9, I miss sleeping in my own bed when I am away from home. And as we have learned 2 exercises before, that miss is one of these verbs that we can use after it, a gerund. And number 10, we stopped playing tennis in the winter because of the weather. We stopped playing tennis in the winter because of the weather. So now we're going to move to the another exercise, which is exercise F. Complete the sentences about what is or isn't allowed or advisable. So as we have did in the first exercise, we said that after certain verb we can use not only gerund but also a pronoun and a noun. The same goes here. Also, we can use either a pronoun or a noun or even a gerund when we are advising about something, or we are talking about something. So all of these are possible subjects that we can start our answers with. So for example, talking on a cell phone while driving is not allowed. So here we're going to write about the things that is or is not allowed or advisable. And remember that we said either we start with a pronoun or a gerund or a regular noun. So let's start with number 1. Plank in the street is subject to a fine. So you can have a look at the pictures of exercise F on your book and tell me from by looking at that picture what is in the street that is subject to a fine. Very good, which is throwing litter. Throwing litter is in the street is subject to a fine. What about picture number 2? In the library disturbs others. So what do you think? By looking at the picture. Very good. By looking at the picture, we can say that talking in the library disturbs others. And number 3, regularly keeps you healthy. Where is it? We can have a look at the pictures, or picture number 3 on our book, and say that exercising regularly keeps you healthy. And number 4, the last one, is good for your health. So what is it? Excellent. Eating vegetables is good for your health. So as you can see here that we completed these sentences by looking at the picture and trying to guess what is allowed to be done and what is not. So now, before we finish, I would like you to check the workbook on pages 129 and 131 for the review of the grammar and vocabulary presented in units 4 until unit 6. And now we have reached the end of our lesson. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.